There is an amazing 238,000 people trying to start something social in the UK each year. It's an astonishing number. Not all of that looks like an enterprise. Quite a lot of it is pure voluntary action. About 100,000 people starting something that looks like a social enterprise each year. 1.7 million people leading a social organisation. We take a view about the first few stages of the social entrepreneur's journey. First of all, you might have an idea, you're blueprinting it, you're trying to work out what it is you're trying to do. The next stage on might be market testing, taking it into the market for real, maybe just a small test, maybe just a small project. Once you've done that, if it works, and it probably hasn't worked perfectly, so you're going to change it a bit, getting some growth in, taking it back to the market, improved, refined, and maybe you take it to a small scale but sustainable venture. That's the great majority of ventures in the UK. Or maybe you've got something that really can grow very big, national, even international. Unlimited awards and the awards in the Higher Education Social Entrepreneurship Initiative follow this pattern. So try it awards just to get people onto the blueprint, do it awards market testing, build it for the smaller scale sustainability, and then when we spot people who've got the personal drive and talent and also the venture model that looks like it can go places, a fast growth system to get people scaled. Why is now the time for you to start out as a social entrepreneur? I mean, it's not exactly a secret that this is a time of both radical change and deep austerity. In the period since 2008 and the Great Crash, it's become really obvious that wealth inequalities have divided, that the opportunities between the rich and poor have divided more than ever, and that social mobility has slowed down to a terrifying extent. The poor and the disadvantaged need the chance to step forward, and they need the chance to lead their own solutions for their own communities. And those sorts of solutions don't come from governments and big agencies any more than LinkedIn was invented by the Careers Service or eBay was invented by Sotheby's. Before the recession, 50% of new jobs used to come from people starting as self-employed, starting up a new venture, or being employed by a micro or small organisation, which essentially means they've got to be as entrepreneurial as the boss, because it's such a small outfit. Post-recession, it's 75%. If you're in the position of coming out of unemployment into paid occupation, it's 88%. So all of this stuff that people talk about being job ready, well, employers don't hire people anymore, apart from a very lucky few. What's happening and what young people are doing to show the way is this increase in entrepreneurial activity. Entrepreneurial activity by young people is up 50% since 2008. So there's a consequence to all this big change, and it's a consequence that's a change from taking a job to making your own job. And it's something I'd want everybody in this room and everybody in universities in particular to be thinking about, to look at their future career, particularly those who are striving for benefit. And just to encapsulate in a few words, it's this, that you are the entrepreneur of your own lives. That's my starting point on this. And one of the things that people so often mistake in starting out as a social entrepreneurship is it takes all of you. It's a fully human activity, not just an intellectual activity, a fully human activity. So my advice to everybody is just to get started and get experience and see every step you take forward and every step back as a training course in your journey. You're the people who will be in charge of change, and all of us on this panel, all of us in the university, in UnLtd, all of us want you to exceed your wildest dreams as social entrepreneurs.
And so we now have a statistic which is that 1.5 billion people are now overweight, dangerously overweight, and that's now more than the billion people who are malnourished. And that's a terrible place for humanity to have got to. And we need to do something different. So what we were doing wasn't working if that's the statistic it delivered. So I think that's heavily driven by businesses. So I think businesses have to take responsibility. But I think what's interesting about businesses, and one of the ways that we've helped get Divine to work, is that all businesses are made out of people like you and I. And so all the bad things that businesses are being done are done by people like you and I. And why are we doing those things? And so that sense of make your business part of the world you'd like to see, when you set up a business, like the one Cliff's suggesting you set up, you should make sure it's part of the world you'd like to see. But you also, if you aren't going to set up a business and you're working for a business now, is it helping create the world you'd like to see? Is it actually creating a world that will even be here in 50 years' time in the way that we can inhabit it and have the things we want to do? So Divine's mission, we were founded in 1998, and our mission is to improve the lives and opportunities of small-scale cocoa growers in West Africa by establishing a dynamic, branded, fair trade chocolate marketing company in the large UK chocolate market, thus putting our farmers higher up the value chain. We're a mission-driven company which is 45% owned by the farmers of Kwapa Cocoa Cooperative in Ghana, and we are a mainstream proposition. That means that we wanted people who liked the idea, who liked our chocolate and liked the idea of the change that we wanted to see, would be able to afford to buy the chocolate, so it was at an affordable price. It was in places where they would normally buy chocolate, places like supermarkets. And it would taste how they expected chocolate to taste, so you weren't having to change what it was you expected out of a chocolate bar. And so Kwapa Cocoa is a democratic farmers' organisation where farmers join at a village level, and they elect their local executive, and then they elect a regional executive, and then they have a national executive which gets voted for every 4 years. So they now have 65,000 members in 1,400 villages across the cocoa growing belt in Ghana, and everybody has a say. And in 1997, those farmers in their AGM voted to set up a chocolate company. In 1998, Divine Chocolate was launched as the first mainstream fair trade chocolate company. So I went for the job in May 99, and I couldn't take it up because I was running a company first, so I had a 3-month wait to take up the job. But they said to me, could I come to the Farmers AGM in Ghana? And I went to the Farmers AGM in Ghana in July 99. And what was amazing to me was that the farmers had never tasted chocolate. So they were the second biggest growers of cocoa in the world, and they'd actually never tasted chocolate. So they had no idea where it was going or why you should do it well, why you should ferment and grow it well, and that in fact there was a security in this, because we've got an appetite for chocolate and we're not going to give it up anytime soon. So one of the things that I found constantly sort of astonishing in a way is you've had the whole conversation about labour standards inside the chocolate supply chain, and you have these huge big meetings coordinated by the Foreign Office or the Department of International Development or trade unions, and they never actually invite farmers to them. And so I go to these meetings and I say, have you've talked to a farmer about this? Because actually they don't want these bad things to be happening either, and they might be nearer to a solution. And so they now get invited to international forum on their own behalf to speak for themselves. And I think that's the idea that they've actually got a voice out of this has been immensely important. And you're all thinking, why have I got this picture of these people running away who are naked? And that's because this is a film by Lars von Trier called The Idiots. And I ended up running a film company called Metro Tartan. And The Idiots is the most controversial film that's been released in Britain with a proper certification. And I had to negotiate for the certification, and I had to be the spokesperson in the media to say why this film should be certified and why adults in Britain had the right to watch it. And I absolutely intellectually understand why I did that, but I really couldn't understand why it was me doing it. And so the can you tell your mum what you're doing? I think it's a good way of sort of saying, are you delivering on your own moral standards? Are you bringing your values to work with you? So the opportunity to work for a chocolate company, which was owned by the farmers, which had a fantastic brand and great products, was just an opportunity I couldn't miss. It was an irresistible combination. So what have been the biggest challenges? Have been the people who have said it isn't possible. When we set out to come into one of the most mature and concentrated markets in the world with virtually no money to run a company that was going to be owned by cocoa farmers, nobody thought it was possible. Even the people who invested wrote it off. So they're difficult people, because they're the people who keep on making you think you can't do it. So don't listen to them. I think the other challenge has been access to appropriate finance. I think some of the best decisions I've made have been the money we haven't taken. Because when you take somebody's money, they end up having control. And you end up doing something that isn't the thing you wanted to do, that might actually undermine the mission of your business and actually undermine the whole brand, which then means the whole thing doesn't work. So don't take money from anybody, take the right money from the right people. Learnings I can share, I do think that it's very important that the product that you've got, it's not good enough that the story is good, you've got to have an excellent product. whether that's a service or whether it's a product, that you actually buy, it's got to be as, the best that there is. You've got to be able to believe it so that other people can believe it too. I hope that from what I've said today, you will take your values to work with you, even if you're not setting up an enterprise, and you will stop doing any of the horrible things that your companies are doing. I don't think it's a very radical proposition to have a socially driven business. I think people like Clark's Shoes and Cadbury's and Quaker's Oats were all founded on those sorts of principles more than 100 years ago.
So I'm 30 years old, and the population when my dad was born was 2.5 billion. Population when I was born, 4.7 billion. Population today, 7.1 billion. My wife is pregnant. I'm expecting a baby in a couple of months, and when my baby's 30 years old, that's what the population is going to be when my baby is my age. It's crazy. Look at the rise of technology and how quickly the accelerating rate of change is happening. The telephone took nearly 100 years to be picked up by everybody. Cell phone, more like 30 years. The internet's looking like it will be way less than 20 years to be picked up by 100%. So the rate of change is accelerating. It's accelerating exponentially. The world is definitely changing. But what does this mean for the world? It sometimes means quite a few problems. So what's next? What does this actually mean? So it means that we live in a world of change, and the rate of change is accelerating. I believe, and Ashoka believes, that it means that the skills we need are very different from the skills that we needed previously. But what if is the question that we want to pose. What if everyone was a change maker? What if everybody could contribute to this changing world? We need to combine empathy with teamwork, with leadership, with creativity. And we need to start young. Albert Einstein was in his early 20s when he discovered the theory of relativity. Zuckerberg was 20 when he founded Facebook. So maybe what Gandhi should have said was be the change you want to see in your organization. Now, this is something that Steve Jobs said, which I was reading the other day, which I thought was pretty profound and relevant to this notion that we can all be change makers, is that everything around you was made up by people that were no smarter than you. Whether it be the chair that you're sat on, or the clothes that you're wearing, or the phone that you're using, these were all made by people that were no smarter than you. So when you see the problems around you and the huge challenges that lie ahead, and we don't know what some of the problems of tomorrow are going to be, but we know we need a generation that can fix them, just think you surely can be that contributor of change. So this is Ashoka. I'm the co-director of Ashoka in the UK. We're a global movement founded in 1980. We've been going for nearly 35 years now. We've supported over 3,000 of the world's leading social entrepreneurs. We started the movement, the field of social entrepreneurship. We've got offices in over 30 countries around the world, and there are now dozens of other brilliant support agencies supporting social entrepreneurs. Organisations like UnLtd doing amazing work to really accelerate the movement further and even quicker because it's so necessary. We've also supported tens of thousands of youth venturers, young people, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. We've given them the skills and confidence they need and the cash to start their own social projects as well. And the change really starts with you, and that's why this initiative is so fantastic and so necessary, is that we need every university in the UK. UnLtd have now got to over half the universities in the UK. We're going to get to all of the universities in the UK. We need a generation of change makers, and I really believe that that change can start in the UK. So thank you.
I'm really here to tell you what we're doing, to tell you that we're launching a competition for people inside the college tonight. And that means that we are going to be funding social enterprise starts in the college. We're going to be able to help you take your first steps and support to you. This is staff and students, everybody in the college. This is quite unusual, I know, including recent graduates. So we're reaching out within our own community to say, if you have an idea, if you're just started along the road with your own social enterprise, put your hand up and we'll see if we can help. So we've got two kinds of awards, and those of you who are watching Cliff's presentation closely would have noticed that he mentioned both of these awards. The first of them is the sort of dip your toe in the water type award. That's the Try It award. The risk is quite low. The commitment, of course, is quite big. You can't just really dip your toe in the water. You have to jump in and swim and see if you reach the bottom or the other side. Only one of those will happen. And if you've already started your social enterprise and you're looking to grow it a bit, you're looking to go from doing, you've done a bit of work, you've worked with some people in the community, you know that there's some benefits coming, but you really can't get up to the next stage, you can't get more traction, this might be the award for you to scale up just a little bit. So 2 scales award here, but don't worry if you're not sure which size is right for you. You've got to be in the college and you've got to be motivated and you've got to have a project in mind. That's really the core criteria. Now you may have noticed that the closing date is quite soon, 15th of February. That's completely deliberate because this is our first time of working on the Limited. We're going to run another competition in the summer, by the way, but now we want to say, okay, those of you who have already got an idea and you're thinking, yes, this is just the opportunity for me to put my foot in the water, you're the ones we want to hear from.
How did you face the challenges of dealing with challenging African government? To get through to the people.
Ghana.
Yeah.
In Ghana.
And
I mean, I think you do the same thing you'd do if you were doing something here, of you look at who would be opinion formers and sort of community leaders that would help you get a hearing from the right people. And so we found some people who'd been sitting on the agricultural board, and they helped us get to meet the relevant government departments, and because for our supply chain we needed a traceable supply chain, so we needed a waiver from them to give us a traceable supply chain, and so we got people in Ghana to speak for themselves and represent this is a good idea,
yeah,
in the same way that you would here. And so I think showing that you have a constituency of support in your country, and that therefore as a country with elections and local governments and things, people should respond to those requests, I think is probably part of the process.
I think the Ashoka presentation particularly, that you expected by now the world to have changed significantly. And one of the things I therefore wanted to ask was, how do you take an idea that's good in a small format and achieve the scale that you need to achieve to have a big impact?
So I guess it's almost literally the $1 million question. How do you scale a successful social enterprise? I think first of all, it really is about, certainly the way that Ashoka think anyway, it's about trying to find a solution that's truly tackling the root cause of a problem, which is maybe slightly different to a sort of a fast-moving consumer good, which may well grow to be a very successful social enterprise. But is it definitely sort of tackling the root cause of any given social problem? So I guess that is just one challenge to think about when it comes to actually scaling it. I think when it does come to scaling, it's about building the right team around you, which I think is maybe slightly cliched advice, but it's super important. And surrounding yourself with people that are better than you at various different skills. And so I think it's also about trusting in yourself to actually take the project forward, not being scared of failure and failing, but trying to fail relatively fast. Maybe try to fail once in a given area and learn from it pretty quickly, but don't be scared to fail is also crucial. I think also, I'd love to say that you will go on to develop something as hugely successful as Divine. If you don't, just I guess recognise early that it might not get there, and don't be sort of again scared of just moving direction or changing if it isn't working out. Might be some of my advice. Cliff?
Good. Let's have a go at this, because there's a difference between scaling up your enterprise and scaling up your social impact. And these can be two very different things. And I'll just give an example of something that UnLtd backed about 8 years ago, which was a guy called Matthew Bolton. and we gave him 5,000 quid to start something that became called the Living Wage Campaign. And we have never, in our history, with now 11,500 enterprises created, we have never achieved more leverage off of 5,000 quid than the Living Wage Campaign. There is no enterprise, it's a movement, it's a popular movement. And it just caught the zeitgeist and attracted more and more and more followers and supporters and contributors and activists, until now it's something in the region of 50,000 of the poorest people in the country getting £2 an hour more in their pay packets, which is a staggering financial achievement off of what is still a tiny, tiny little thing. Here's another example. Sometimes you can identify the little bit of the architecture, if you like, of a sector that liberates everything. And something which I really hope and pray does do this in genetic medicine is a thing called DNA Digest, which is run by a social entrepreneur who's working out of the Wyra Unlimited Tech Academy at the moment. And she's identified the problem that genetic medicine, which offers so much promise, is being stifled by people who sit on information because they can't patent it until they've got an application. So they hide it secret. So if I know that a particular type of breast cancer is this genetic mutation, I hide it until I've developed an application. And meanwhile, Rob is a doctor for a patient with this genetic mutation. There's no known treatment. How does he find the researcher who's experimenting on this? DNA Digest is the escrow account, the confidential account where people can put this genetic information in and be matched. So now Rob speaks to me and his patient can come into my clinical trial, I can advance my development quicker, and that should take around about 5 years off the time lag in developing genetic medicines. It is a tiny little thing. It will only ever, even if it succeeds hugely, be one person who originated it and leads it, and one person who looks after the algorithm that holds the confidentiality. But it could liberate millions of people's lives. So sometimes you can spot things that are transformational even if they're tiny.
Given that you have so much experience working with social enterprises, I was wondering if you could pick a favourite that you've heard of recently that really gets you excited.
I've told you about DNA Digest, and that is a bit of a favourite at the moment. But I'll tell you about something, because sometimes social enterprise is about groundbreaking innovation, and sometimes it's about leverage, and the leverage that you've heard of here in terms of fair trade. Sometimes it's just because people wake up one day and think of something that will make the world a little bit better. Not the whole world transformed, but a little bit better. And I met two lads from Huddersfield University last week. And one of them had literally woken up in the night and thought, what about university lotteries? Why don't we have university lotteries so that we can raise money for the social activities, by which I don't mean the bar, I mean the pro-social activities that students in almost all universities do. So it could raise some money for, help to the community, help to disabled and disadvantaged students, etc., etc., etc. And these two lads, very working class backgrounds, no professional sort of in their family, no business in their family, but just decided, we're going to do this, we're going to make it happen. And the way in which they researched, they looked into what are the legalities, what do we have to do and what can we get other people to do. So they found a logistics company that does lottery distribution. They talked to the university side, is this legal? Can we sell lottery tickets on the university campus? All of this sort of thing. Fabulous brand, a franchising system so it can be sold into universities across the country. And I thought, bloody hell, this is great. Because to me, social entrepreneurship is sometimes about the great and the fabulous and the hugely influential, but sometimes it's just about somebody deciding, I know how to do this. I'm going to make this happen. The world will be a bit better. And if millions of people do that, then the whole world is a vastly better place. I want to live in a place where when people see a problem, they act to make it better. And that, to me, is what social entrepreneurship is about.
Can I give my favourite? I'll be really quick. My favourite's definitely a guy called Bart Weetjens, who started a project called Apopo He's an ex-punk rocker turned Zen Buddhist monk from Belgium who trains rats to sniff out landmines in Mozambique and Southeast Asia. It's awesome. So rats have the same sense of smell as dogs, so they can detect the landmine up to 2 meters underground. They're light enough to not set off the landmine, and they'll do anything for a banana. So these rats will work and work, but they're very good to them. I've been out to visit their work, and I even sponsor Cheeky, the hero rat. And so they have these rats. And if you imagine what else dogs are used for in terms of drug detection, in terms of disasters and emergency relief, they're training rats with cameras on their back to go into earthquake zones. I guarantee it, you will see rats at airports very soon because they're a hell of a lot cheaper to train and to keep than dogs. Dogs, like I say, I mean, rats will work for anyone as long as they get a banana. Dogs will only work for the trainer that trains them. You have to fly a dog normally from the Western world out to a disaster zone or to the developing world where things like landmines are actually an issue. So I promise you, rats, you will see them more and more in the future.
Rob, we've got to ask, are the bananas fair trade?
I want to say, I'm going to say 4 quickly because I want you to look them up. So I think the Big Lemon is a social enterprise that's set up in Brighton, and they run a local bus route and they recycle oil. And so look them up, they've got a fantastic website. Zaytoon bring in products from Palestine, and they bring in really good quality products, and they work with the people in Palestine to develop products that are sellable and packable and get through all those problems. Suma is a wholesale distributor in Britain, which is a very unsexy piece of business, but they run it as a workers' co-op. There's 148 of them in Leeds, and they're now distributing around the whole of the country, and they're actually running an alternative distribution for food system, which I think is well worth looking up. And then I think Elvis and Cressy make goods they make what would have been leather goods out of recycled fire hoses, and they sell them in high-end shops, so you can buy a £250 handbag made out of a London Fire Brigade hose, which looks absolutely fantastic. So look them up, because they're really, really inspiring.
I think it's fantastic. I think the more of these initiatives, the better.
I think it's an opportunity for people to be inspired by companies like Divine Chocolate and all the other lovely stories you heard tonight. And I hope it gives people hope that they can make their ideas a reality.
Yeah, I think events like this are fantastic because too many business schools are analysing and defining what social entrepreneurship is, and I think you only really understand when you start to hear real life stories and case studies from social entrepreneurs themselves. So I really hope events like tonight have helped the students in the audience understand social entrepreneurship and recognise that they too can become social entrepreneurs.
I'm sure there's a huge amount of social entrepreneurial energy in a place the size of King's, but there is a network effect, there's a group effect. If people see people like them stepping forward as social entrepreneurs, boost confidence, people can get ideas from each other, mutual support.
I think it's really brilliant. I like the fact that even though it's just for King's College students, it's also open for the rest of us, because I found it on Twitter, and I think it's brilliant to sit in front of the Divine CEO and the CEO of UnLtd.
If people start and they fail, it really doesn't matter. The important thing is that they give it a go and they realise that anything is possible.
Identify the people, which is not the same as benefit.